So design of compression members. So which is one of the important structural element in steel structures. Okay, so which plays a vital role in the whole steel structure. So that is how one second. That is how design of compression members plays a vital role in terms of designing the particular element. So let me start with. So here you can see the example of a steel compression member, so which is positioned in a vertical way, right? So these are the compression members. So this is a complete steel structure. So basically, how you define a compression member? So structural members which is subjected to an axial compression or axial force. So that is how we define a compression member, isn't it? See, these compression members, it might be a vertical member or it might be an inclined member also. So in buildings, we call compression members as a columns. In roof trusses, we call the compression members as a struts. Okay. So in electrical poles, we call them as a post. In bridges, we call them as a stanchions. And in zip of the crane, we call it as a boom. So like that, the compression members was nomenclatured in a different ways based on its application, right? So design governed by strength and buckling. So your compression members are designed not only for its axial strength, it should also be designed for the buckling. Why? Because as the member is under compression, there is a possibility of buckling due to unexpected eccentrical loads. Okay, so basically columns are subjected to axial loads through its centroid. So that is how we can able to calculate the design compression stress is equal to load by area. So load is an applied axial force and A is the cross-sectional area of the member. So that is how usually we calculate the compression strength of the member based on its axial force. So what happens when a member is subjected to more axial load? So there are the different modes of failures takes place in a column when it is subjected to axial load. So there will be a local buckling takes place in a column. So column will subject it to squash. Okay, squash in the sense it will squeeze the member, and there will be overall flexural buckling. Flexural in the sense bending. So it will bend also. So there will be torsional buckling also takes place. So not only bend, so even the member will twist at its support. So these are different failure modes of an axial loaded column. Okay. So coming to its ideal state, see how we are defining the ideal state of the column. See, ideal state is never reached. The stress state will be non-uniform due to different states. So let us take an accidental eccentricity of loading with respect to the centroid. See, in reality, what happens, even though engineers maximum they will try to execute the member to transfer the load exactly through the centroid of the column section. But what happens due to eccentrical loads, unfortunate eccentrical loads, definitely due to the eccentrical loads, member may tends to buckle. So that eccentrical loads no one can avoid. Why? Because your column is not just an element in the structure. So there will be a beam which connects a column laterally, right? There will be a roof, right? Slab. So like that. So different structural elements which is connecting together to the column. So where there is a possibility of eccentrical loads. So that eccentrical loads only treat a member, makes that member into different types of failures. So not only eccentrical load, there is a member out of straightness, crookedness. What do you mean? So let us take a prismatic section. What do you mean prismatic section? From one end to other end, your section should have a same cross-sectional area. So let us, when it was manufactured or when it was shifted from one place to other place during transportation or during erection, there is a small possibility of small crookedness in the member. So it may lose its straightness. So because of its losing in its straightness also, there is a possibility of eccentrical load which leads member to buckle. Okay. And next one is residual stresses in the member cross-section due to fabrication process. So during fabrication also, there is a possibility of residual stresses in the member which leads to different types of failures in the structural member. Okay, so that is how the structure usually subjected in a real practical way. So that is the biggest challenge to the structural engineers, right? In addition to most common types of compression members, so as we know, in a buildings, we know column as a compression member. Apart from that, there is an arch rib. Even in arches also, your abutments will be subjected to compression. Rigid frame members, which is inclined or other way, and compression elements in trusses, we call it as a strut. Okay. So in that way, your compression members not only will be vertical, it will be even in inclined also. So now I will show you the pictures. So here is the one where the column in the building, so which is subjected to compression, axial compression. Okay. See why I'm saying where the column will have an eccentrical loads in practical. See, your beams are connected laterally to the column, right? Again and again, there are plenty beams on the top. See, whatever the loads transfers there from to the column, it should transfer axially. But what happens in practical, it is impossible. So due to that, even due to that, column may not have only an axial load. So it have even the other kind of eccentrical load, which leads member to buckle, which leads member to twist, which leads member to flexure buckling. So that is how we need to design your member for all these failures. Okay. So this is the 3-hinged arch where this arch is subjected to compression. Okay, the load will transfer like this to the ground. So where even in arches also your member is subjected to compression. Okay, and next one is a steel frame with the 3-hinged arches. So you can see over here 3-hinged is at crown there will be 1 hinge, and at support there will be another hinge. So even here also your column is, your whole structure is subjected to compression. So here you can see the steel rigid frame, right? So where these columns are subjected to compression, right? So this is called the main rafter, so which is acting as a roof. Okay. So these are the applications. So this is a roof truss, so which is called a braced frame, right? So here this is your truss member. So in the truss members, so there will be strut members which is connected to the gusset plates, which is subjected to a compression force. Not only that, even in the bracings also where the members will be subjected to compression. So these are the real applications of your compression members. You can see the practical picture of the rafter and the column, right? So these kind of structures are called PEBs. PEB stands for pre-engineered building. Pre-engineered in the sense they fabricate all these sections based on the design, and they will erect straight away in the site. Okay. So that is the reason why you can have a required cross sections while the sections was fabricated. Okay, no need to have the prismatic sections. You can go with the tapered sections. Why? Because you can see at this joint. So I will show you, so you can find, you can see my arrow, right? So here the section is having less cross section area. Here the section is having more cross section area. Why? This is called a tapered section. Why? Because so this is the point where the section is subjected to heavy load. Okay, so this is the major shear force point. So by that, the section you have a more cross sectional area, right? So in that way, sections can be prepared based on the load. So in the prefabrication yard. So that is how PEB structures are nowadays are more important. So let us talk about the elastic buckling of slenderness compression members. So as slender columns have low crippling load carrying capacity. See, when a column is subjected to buckle, so there will be two kind of failures takes place. One is a buckling failure, the other one is a crippling failure. Buckling failure will takes place at center of the longitudinal length of the column, and crippling takes place at the supports. Okay, so by that, when a column is having a low carrying capacity, definitely there is a possibility of crippling failure at the joint. Okay, so consider one such column having length L and uniform cross section A, so which is hinged at both ends. So let P is the crippling load. What happens? Definitely there will be a failure at the joint. So let me show the picture over here. So I think you all gone through this concept in your strength of materials, calculating the deflection for the beam based on its supporting conditions and based on the load. So here you can see a simply supported beam. So the effective length is from 2 point of counterflexures, and this is why called a deflection. So you can calculate deflection at any point, but the deflection will be a maximum at center for the simply supported beam based on the different types of loads. Okay, so this is a Maclaurin's formula and double integration formula to calculate the slopes and deflections of the beams, right? And let's see how the slenderness ratio can be calculated. I think you all know this. Please guys, I'm requesting you again, please don't try to write anything on the screen. It is going to disturb your lecture itself. Yeah. See the column of, how you define the slenderness ratio, it is defined as the effective length to its least radius of gyration. Why we are taking least radius of gyration? So the least radius of gyration tends to have more slenderness ratio. When your member is having more slenderness ratio, it leads to buckle. Okay. So that is how we are supposed to take the least radius of gyration based on the least moment of inertia. If you take any section like I section, T section, C section, angular section, so your moment of inertia will be always least towards y-axis. Why? Because that is the minor axis in the particular section. So which leads to have minimum radius of gyration, which increases the maximum slenderness ratio. Even IS 800/2007 is talking about the limits of the slenderness ratio from table number 3. Okay, you can go through the table number 3 where it gives the maximum slenderness ratio based on the 3 different conditions. The first condition is when the member is subjected to residual stresses other than wind and earthquake force. So what is the maximum slenderness ratio? So it was given in the code. When a member is subjected to residual stresses along with the wind and earthquake forces, what is the maximum slenderness ratio? Okay, when a member is subjected to stresses apart from pre-tension forces. So that is how your slenderness ratio values are defined in your code. So whatever the slenderness ratio value, you calculate from this formula, this should not cross that maximum limit. Then only your member is safe under buckling. Okay. So that is how you have to calculate the buckling strength of the column based on the values which is recommended by the code. Okay. So let's talk about the compression members versus tension members. See, how can you differentiate these two? As you know, equal pull is called a tension force, and opposite each other where the member is subjected to, towards to its axis, we call it the compression force, isn't it? So the effect of materials which is due to imperfections and the flaws, so which leads to different conditions. So let me show you one by one. The slight imperfections and tension members can be safely disregarded as there are little consequences. See, if the structure is, let us take a tension member. If the tension member is having a slight imperfections, it doesn't have any problem. There will be very little consequence. But what happens to a compression member? If it have a small imperfection, definitely it leads to a big failure in the member. So that is a major difference in tension and compression member. Okay, so let's say a column is slightly bent at the time it is put in place, may have significant bending resulting from the load and initial lateral deflection. So that is how your column is supposed to be designed. Okay, so imperfections and crookedness will lead to a big problem in the compression members. So tension members causes a lengthening of members, but compression members decide compression forces causing buckling of the member. Okay, in tension member, it may cause only the length difference, but in compression member, when length increases, so definitely the member will have more tends to buckle. Okay, so that is how the difference between a tension and compression member in the steel structures. So, and one more thing, so why column is more critical than tension member? So this is one of the important statement. A column is more critical than a beam or a tension member because minor imperfections in materials and dimensions mean a great deal. So as I told you many times, in column, where a small slight imperfection, small crookedness in the member, which leads to a big disaster in the structural element. Okay, so that is a major difference why your compression member is more critical than a tension member. Okay, and see, there is one more example. The bending of tension members probably will not be very serious as the tensile load tends to straighten those members. See, let us take a tension member and apply a 2 equal pull. So what happens? It will elongate, and again there will be only straightness in the member. It doesn't lose its straightness. But what happens in a compression member? But bending of compression member is seriously because compression loads will tends to magnify the bending in those members. So when it bends, it will have the permanent deflection like that. So member won't become straight. So when it tends to buckle, okay, that is a major difference in tension and compression members. So let's see the compression member failure. There are 3 basic types of column failures takes place. One is due to material failure, which is a short and fat. But the next one is buckling failure, and the third one is combined compression buckling failure. Okay, and the buckling is always depends on length and width of the column. So as that is what we are going to talk about, the slenderness. Slenderness in the sense width to thickness ratio. Okay, that aspect ratio. You can see the failures in the pictures. This is called a flexural buckling. So where primary type of buckling members are subject to bending or flexure when they become unstable. So this is how the buckling, flexural buckling takes place. Flexure stands for bending, bending buckling anamata. So it is also called Euler buckling angoda. I think you all know the Euler formula, which is pi square A by L square. So that is how the bending buckling takes place. So due to the instability of the member, and this is called the local buckling. So local buckling will take place when part of the cross sections of the column are so thin than the buckle locally in compression before other modes of buckling can occur. See what is the thinnest part in the steel structure? If you take an I section as a column, the thinnest part, thinnest element in the I section is a web. So web tends to buckle first because of this thinness. Not only web, even you can take the flange. Flange is having very thin in its thickness. So definitely the local buckling takes place to its elements of the steel structures alone. Okay. And next one is torsional buckling, where the column failed by twisting or combined effect of torsional and flexural buckling. Okay. So that is how the torsional buckling takes place. Right. And the sections used for compression members. So what are the different types of sections used for compression members? Let me show you the different cross sections where they can be used as a compression member in a different applications like bridges, buildings, roof trusses, even for electrical posts, even for cranes and all. Okay, let me show you one by one. So everyone are in, right? Yeah. Let me show you one by one. Yeah. So these are the different types of compression members which can be used in the application. You can use a single angle as a strut in the roof trusses. Double angle can be used. P section can also be used as a compression member, and even the channel sections can be used. Okay. Apart from that, a W column. So W in the sense the member which is framed in such a way that so it has having the two flanges on the top and only one flange on the bottom, and the pipe or rounded hollow tube can be used as a column, and the square HSS tube can also be used as the columns. So why? Because these members are having more resistance towards buckling. Okay. So within the cross section area of the solid and the hollow section, and even rectangular tube can be used, and you can see four angles which are used as a column like a box section. So four angles with the help of batten, they can be jointed and can be used as a column. Box sections can be used as a column when two C channel sections are faced toe to toe. In two C channel sections which are faced back to back, either it can be doing lacing or batten, which is connected as a lateral lateral connection. So you can use these kind of sections as the compression members. So apart from that, there is the cover plates which can be used like this on the top of the flanges, and see four angles which is connected to the web. It can also be used as a built-up member for the column like this also. So these are the different shapes of the different cross sections where they can be used as a compression member. And column buckling. So you can see buckling is a general term, and there the elastic and inelastic bucklings also will be. So let me show you the column buckling in terms of pictures. See here, buckling is the mode of failure generally resulting from structural instability. Okay. So basically, buckling will happen only due to the structural instability. If the structure is stable, so definitely load passes through its axis only. There is no chance of having a buckling in the column. But the thing is, practically it is may not be possible. Okay. So let me show you with examples. So this is called just a buckling. So I can treat it as just buckling where the member can regain its original position. Okay. The member can regain its original position. See here you can see a matchstick, right? So where it is subjected to compression, it gone broken like this. Okay. So I think you all tried. Why? Because it is having very thin in nature because of its slenderness, where the compression force is more. So load makes that member undergo buckling. See now here you can see, you can try this at your home. Take a paper and fold it like a hollow sheet, and let's try to apply a compression force. So you can treat this as a hollow circular tube which is subjected to buckling. So this is how the twisting takes place. Twisting is nothing but torsional buckling. So this is torsional buckling. This is a lateral buckling. And see the next example, which is a localized buckling. Okay, this we call it as a crushing. In crushing also, member will have, like a crush like this. So this is also one type of localized buckling. So here, the first picture which I showed you, where the member was bended, is a temporary or elastic buckling, isn't it? So you can see. So this is the first picture, right? So in this first picture, you can see every picture is showing like it is undergoing its original shape when the load is removed. So these are called elastic bucklings. Okay. So the second picture, this one, and this one, and this one, they're all three are plastic bucklings where the member is not regained its original shape, where it is undergoing permanent failure. Okay. So this is how the bucklings can be categorized as elastic buckling and plastic buckling. Right. So here you can see the buckling in the U section. I mean tubular C section like. So what is the mechanism of buckling? So let me show you some pictures how the buckling takes place. So due to some mechanisms. So the first picture here, a column is subjected to an axial force where your force is less than a crippling force, right? So what is P? P is an applied force. What is PCR? PCR is a crippling force. Okay. So or a critical force where the member is subjected to failure. You can call it as. So even in the first picture, P is less than PCR. Here also P is less than PCR and P is less than PCR. P is an applied force. PCR is a critical force which is resisted from the member. So this is the first mechanism, right? So what in this mechanism, what happens? Your member is at a stable equilibrium. Your member never go under permanent failure. This is a stable equilibrium condition. Okay. So you can see before, during, and after, right? So let's see in the second mechanism. So this is the second mechanism. Your P is equal to critical force. Okay. So P is equal to critical force. Due to force, the member may deflect, right? So, but it won't undergo any failure. Maybe it may have a permanent deformation, but this is a precarious equilibrium. So member is having a permanent deformation, but there is no failure in the member. So by that I can say P is almost equal to its critical force because member showed its resistance without having any failure. Okay, this is the second mechanism of buckling. So we can sustain our structure without having any permanent failure up to this extent. Okay, this is the mechanism of buckling where we can able to sustain your structure to its capacity. Let's see the picture 3, so which is unstable equilibrium. So this is an unstable equilibrium. So you can see where your force is greater than the critical force. P is greater than critical, greater than critical. What happens in the last, before it was, during it was, and after, you can see the permanent failure, right? Okay. So there is a disturbance takes place in the member. So this is the major failure in the buckling. So this we need to take care of. Your member should not go as I showed in the figure 3. So this is a possible buckling or collapse takes place in the member when your force is greater than PCR. See in all these pictures, you can see only an axial force. The axial force itself making your member to buckle. So this is how we can call it as an unstable mechanism or unstable equilibrium condition. Okay. Yeah. So from buckling, what I can conclude, Amma? So this type of behavior, which is indicates that for axial loads greater than critical load, the straight position of column is one of unstable equilibrium. In that, a small disturbance will tend to grow into an excessive deformation, isn't it? So that is how things happen. And buckling is unique. So because all buckles won't be same, every buckling is itself having its uniqueness based on its slenderness property. So from our other structural elements, considerations in that it results from state of unstable equilibrium. Okay, so you can't say every buckling is same. So they are all unique somehow. And the buckling of long columns is not caused by failure of material of which column is composed, but by determination of what was stable state of equilibrium to an unstable one. So material may depend over the epudu. So the buckling always depends on its stability. ఎప్పుడైతే మెంబర్ స్టేబుల్ గా ఉంటుందో లోడ్స్ కి దాన్ని బట్టే బక్లింగ్ క్యారెక్టరిస్టిక్ డిపెండ్ అవుతుంది. ఓకే, ఇట్ ఈస్ నాట్ బేస్డ్ ఆన్ ద ఫెయిల్యూర్ ఆఫ్ ఎ మెటీరియల్. వీ నెవర్ can say buckling caused due to material failure. No, you can say buckling is happened due to instability of the structure, or where the load is not, okay, no load is not exactly axial to its section. So dani batti we can say member is under buckling. Okay, so these are the different modes. Compression member buckling, so where we are going to design your column where unstable is called critical load antam. So therefore critical is also called as a buckling load and code antam. Okay, PCR is nothing but a critical load. So critical load can also be called as a buckling load. Okay, and I think you know all these pictures, how to choose the so only 10 minutes left, so let me conclude fast. So I think you can see all these pictures in your code book in the design of compression members. So or else you can go through my Facebook live videos where I explained how to make use of these graphs and how to design your column based on the buckling classes of the different cross sections available, how to calculate the design compressive stress of the members from the table 9A to 9D based on the buckling classes. Everything I was explained in my notes. Okay, you can just go through that. And design compressive stress, this is the what code is recommending. Okay, so this everything was there in the code, everything. So these pictures are from the code itself. So design of compression members, so the assumptions made where the column is absolutely straight ani mana assume cheskuntam when we are designing a compression member, and the modulus of elasticity is assumed to be constant in a built up column. So it won't vary because we are all making use of a section with the same material, and the secondary stresses are neglected. What do you mean secondary stresses? It might be any other kind of residual stresses, temperature stresses, bending stresses. Ivanni మనం neglect chesi we design your member under only an axial force. Okay, so these few problems are also there and few tables also given. You can go through this presentation immediately after completion of this class. I will share you the presentation, guys, and you can see the different types of built up columns available, like laced columns, struts with the batten plates, battened struts, members with the perforated cover plates. Let me show you the pictures. These are called built up compression members, where a column is laced like this, which is called a single lacing, where the column is laced like this, which is called double lacing. Okay, and the lacing along with a batten plate. So these are the practical pictures of your column which is subjected to lacing and batten. Okay, so the design of lacing. So recently, just 2 days before, I designed I gave clear notes on lacing and designed one problem on lacing also. And just on Friday we have designed on batten, how to design the batten and what is the design procedure for the batten. Okay, these are the formulas which we required. Everything was there from the code. Okay, you can just go through them. Right, so these are all design steps, and one example problem also given in this presentation. You can go through, or else even in your notes I discussed one problem on lacing and one problem on batten, isn't it? Okay, and yeah, apart from this designing of the columns, the load carries from columns to the base plates with the help of column bases, where the column bases are classified into two categories. One is slab base, the other one is the gusset base. Okay, so let me show you how the slab base and gusset base looks like. So you can see this is an electrical post, which is a hollow circular post which is connected to the slab base with the help of 4 anchorage bolts, which will be inserted into the column, right? Okay, so this is how. So this is not a slab base, this is only a template to make all these 4 anchorage bolts to be to reside at one position without any disturbance. See, after casting where the concrete get fixed, then we can remove the template and you can fix the original base plate on the top of this, the threaded part. Okay, so this example is called a slab base example, and this example you can see the gusset base example, where the column is supported with some gusset plates when the load is heavy. So we go with the slab bases when the load is small, and for the heavy loads we go with the gusset bases. This is a practical picture of the gusset base. I think you might have seen these kind of pictures, real applications lively, isn't it? Okay. So even we solved one problem on slab base and one problem on the gusset base also. This is called a web angle, where the web cleat angle, which is connected to the web of the column, and the angle which is connected to the flange is called flange cleat angle. Okay, and the angles which are connected to the slab base and slab base to the concrete base, that is called the slab base. And this is the uh, elevation. This is the side view. Okay, side elevation and front elevation. Okay, please try to imagine. When you try to imagine, then only solving problems will be very easy. Okay, so this is how the column is welded to the slab base. If hollow circle columns can be used, hollow rectangular columns can be used, and this is how the effective area of slab plate base plate can be calculated like this. This picture was there in code IS 800-2007, and this is the gusset base. So I think you can see the gusset base, how it looks, right? So we have solved one problem on even on the gusset base also. So you can go through the notes, and these are the design steps of the gusset base. So no need to explain here by, because we already solved a problem from them. The effective lengths in different directions. I think you all know effective length of each member based on its supporting conditions. So it was there in the table number. I think it is in 20. Sorry. It is in 11 or 12. Okay. So you can see the different effective lengths of the columns based on its end condition. Okay. So this is how the presentation was. So you can go through the presentation, which is talking about different buckling characteristics, how to design the column and everything, right? So let me wind up this, because a lot of information there, because this presentation was prepared for MTech advanced steel design. So where the column, compression members plays a vital role in the steel structures. The factors which are affecting buckling. So these are the factors which affect the buckling, so which is based on the Euler's formula. This is the Euler's formula, right? So in everything, the Euler formula will be same, only the effective length varies. So this is a cantilever, and this is the proper cantilever, right? Right. So in that way, presentation was made like this. So let me. So yeah. So that ends with the presentation. You can see some real pictures how the members will buckle. See, local buckling of the column, which takes place at the flanges, as the flange plates are very thin, right? So this is a flange buckling for the real eye section. The lateral buckling of the beams, and even in the structure itself, you can see. So this is what crippling. So we are talking about crippling, right? So crippling is something which happens at the joint. Okay, so which happens at the joint. So I think you can see the crippling failure here. Buckling means it may happen at any portion of its effective length. Effective length distance lo jarige bending ni we call it as a buckling. But at the joint specifically, at a distance from 150 to 300 mm from its support, we call it as a buckling. Sorry, we call it as a crippling, right? So from the support at a distance of 150 to 300 mm distance లో ఏదైతే మెంబర్ ఫెయిల్ అవుతుందో దాన్ని మనం క్రిప్లింగ్ అంటాం. Okay. Right. So that ends with the presentation. So any doubts you can guys, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So anything do you want to question me? Anyone? Say as the lockdown date was extended, we can go better and we can complete the whole design of steel structures, each and every point, right? So please, whenever you are free, please go through the classes of mine, which I'm putting a lot of efforts in explaining each and every concept. Okay. So ఫ్రీగా ఉన్నప్పుడు నోట్స్ కొద్ది నా వీడియోస్ కొన్ని రెఫర్ చేస్తూ ఉండండి. సో క్లాస్లో చెప్పిన దానికన్నా నేను కొద్దిగా ఎక్కువ ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ చెప్తున్నాను మీకు. because I'm having enough time to explain you guys. So that's the reason. Okay. So mana concepts వచ్చేటప్పుడు కూడా you can spend more time. Anything else, guys? So in the next class, I will try to give presentation on beams and plate girders. Okay. So then after we can go through the notes also, how to design the beams and the plate girders. Anyone would like to speak to me? Because I think it's only 1 or 2 minutes left. Because in this Zoom app, we can't solve any problem in it. So I think that's the only reason where I'm not using Zoom for solving problems. Okay, even discussing a concept. So we need to have special time to discuss on each and every concept. So that's the reason why I'm using this Facebook Live. There is no option to it. Okay? So where we can give a presentations only in Zoom app and